center is doing to those students who do not know about SCDC. Okay, our center is actually in charge of TAR-UC Career and Internship Fair. Besides, we also do industry engagement. For example, for this webinar session, we invited to an industry expert to share their experience and insights on career preparation. And then other than that, we also do workshops, webinar relevant to career preparation. For example, like resume, for example, like interview skills, LinkedIn, or email etiquette, something like that, okay? And then after all, we also do have a career advisory session. So if you are not sure like what is your future career path, you are quite blurred in the sense of you do not know what which way you should go to after graduating or whatnot. So you can just walk into our center in Bangunan Tan Sri Kokaibo, first floor, or you can also drop us an email to our email address. I will drop in the chat box, scdcalliance@tarsi.edu.my. So if you need any assistance from our career advisors, you can always drop us an email, okay? We are very happy to assist you. Okay, so other than that, we also do have our Facebook page, TAR-UC Student Career Development Center, and also our IG. So let me drop the information in the chat box. We will always update our events and our activities here in Facebook and also Instagram, so students can follow us on this social media. Thank you for that. Okay, so I would like to ask anyone know what is the topic for today's webinar session, students? Do you guys know what is the topic for today? You can drop in the chat box. Anyone knows what is the title for today's webinar session? Take charge of your career. Okay, very good. That's the correct one. Okay, so before we start the session, I would like to inform that this session will be recorded. So we will actually upload it to YouTube after this. So students, if you guys need to refer to this video after the webinar, you can just drop us an email and then we will provide you the video link, okay? So in order to be entitled for the soft skill point, students are actually required to be present from now until the end of this webinar session. Fill out the feedback form. So if you happen to leave the webinar session halfway right in the middle, so you actually won't be getting any soft skill point for this session. Okay, hope you guys can understand about this part. So without further ado, let me introduce our speaker for today. The first one would be Mr. Tan. So one moment. Okay, Mr. Tan is actually the independent non-executive director at Next Green Global Berhad and also Equities Tracker Holdings Berhad. Okay, and then another one, we have Mr. Saqib with us. He is the project director at Rohingya Project and PhD researcher at S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies. Let us give you a very brief introduction of their background. Mr. Tan actually has more than 35 years of experience in both the corporate and consultancy world, which equipped him with a strong understanding of leadership and in managing stakeholders' expectations. So he is currently an independent non-executive director of two listed entities on Bursa Malaysia, like I mentioned just now. He is also a senior consultant with Development Dimension International, a leading global leadership development and human resources consulting firm. He is also an accredited coach with the International Coaching Federation. Whereas for Mr. Saqib, he has over 10 years of experience working in corporate communication in New York and also Kuala Lumpur. He is a pioneer of several initiatives for positive social change. He is a co-founder of Urban Hijau and Urban Permaculture Center and is project director of the Rohingya Project, a blockchain-based startup for stateless people. So Mr. Saqib is certified under the International Coach Federation and coaches professionals and organizations on how to make social impact. So without further ado, let me pass the floor to Mr. Saqib. Hi, Mr. Saqib. Yeah.
Hi, and good afternoon, and thank you, Janice, for that kind introduction. Thank you also for your institution for hosting Meng Chai and myself. We're delighted to join everybody. And I know it's one of those dreaded post-lunch sessions, so we'll try and keep things lively and engaging, and hopefully you guys can stay up and catch up. Uh, the reason that Meng Chai and I are doing this sort of presentation together is that we've both been collaborating this past year, and as you may have noticed in our introductions, we're both coaches, and a coach is essentially focused on professional development of your clients. And it is through our coaching journey that we came together to write a book that we recently published in December called Take Charge, a practical guide to designing your career. And one of the audiences for the book is essentially you guys, all of you who are probably at the last leg of your undergraduate journey and about to take that nerve-wracking step into the job market. And really, the purpose behind Meng Chai and I writing the book was we wanted to send a central message, and it's very clear from the title, which is that it's really up to you to be proactive and take charge of your career. And that if you adopt that approach, if you adopt that philosophy, if you adopt that mindset of taking charge, of taking responsibility for each and every step of your own development, not necessarily relying on society or your boss or your organization or your friends or your family to guide that process or to drive that process for you, but to take that initiative yourself, you'll end up with a career that hopefully is more satisfying and more fulfilling, and one in which you don't have to encounter a lot of these problems that unfortunately many people do encounter. And we think this message is very, very important for those of you who are just entering into this field. It's a scary time. It's also a very promising time for those of you who are deciding to, start with your first job. Now, I'd also mention something in addition to my bio that was given, is that up till last year, I was a lecturer in Sunway University, and I was teaching in communication as well. And one of the concerns I had with my students was that I wanted to transfer them practical skills, but skills that, having worked in the corporate sector and with in public relations, I knew that these skills would actually be used. And many cases, some of the stuff you learn in your textbooks ends up being quite redundant by the time you actually enter the field. So one of my main concerns was being able to have a good placement for students and being able to allow students to pursue opportunities that really mean a lot to them and that are very important. Now, I'm sure this is not your first career talk or pep talk. You probably have gone through a whole series of such talks at this point. And in many cases, you may get sort of conflicting information. You may be told one thing, you may be told another thing, you may be told that it's all about your CV, you may be told it's all about doing X, Y, Z. And I think back, I was trying to think of an example of how to sort of put that all together. And, I'm assuming most of you have seen the movie Spider-Man Homecoming. Has anybody seen Spider-Man Homecoming? Not the recent one. This is the first one. It came a few years ago with the Tom Holland Spider-Man. But there's a statement there that Tony Stark makes when he's talking to Peter Parker, and I'm not spoiling any big plot detail, but he says as an advice to Peter Parker, don't do anything that I wouldn't do, and don't do anything that I would do. And in between there's a small space where you're supposed to sort of operate. And in many cases, when it comes to career advice, we're kind of given that same message, do this, but don't do this, do that, but don't do this. And it leaves you a bit confused as to really what you're supposed to do and what step you're supposed to make. But the first thing I'd say is, don't pressure yourself. You're at, in a way, kind of the best part of the journey because you don't have all of these crushing expectations you do that, you know, you would have 10 years or 15 years down the road. So really, before we even get into the material, I just want to say, take this in, take the fact that you're at a stage in your life where you have a relative freedom to explore different avenues of life and really embrace that. I think that's important for all of you to remember, because as you move forward in life with you know, more career responsibilities, more family responsibilities, etc., your space to move and your flexibility to change and to adapt becomes progressively less so. So just keep that in mind as we move forward into what we have to say. Okay, so now the way we've divided it between Meng Chai and myself is that I'm going to give an initial part of the presentation. What I'm going to be talking about is particular to being visible in the job market. Like, how do you get your name out there? How do you know, how do people identify you? Which is a scary process as well, maybe something that a lot of you are going through. The other step is how to sort of identify and narrow down your search for the right job opportunity. And I realize I'm talking to people who are in a variety of different fields. So, you know, currently I'm pursuing my PhD, so I'm a student in a way like all of you. And mine is in international studies, particularly related to my refugee work. The other sort of side of what I do is related to urban farming and sustainability. And the initiative that I launched, Urban Hijau, is something that I'll be talking about later on and giving some examples from there, because those examples for me are at least close to the heart and hopefully relevant to you. So I'll be talking about that initial part of the journey, and then Meng Chai will move forward from that to talk about the steps of actually going through an interview to really land that interview process and make sure you make the right impression. And then also the initial steps of when you actually get a new job. What are the expectations that you have to meet, and how do you make the right moves? So that's sort of the flow of what we are trying to get across, and hopefully you can stay with us to the entire journey. If you have any questions, please just post them in the chat. We'll try and save the questions for the Q&A session at the end of the presentation, which I think would be roughly around 40 minutes from now. And then if you can post your questions from now while we're talking, it's better because everybody will be able to see it and benefit when we actually get into the Q&A section. Okay, so with that all being said, I'm just going to go into my particular part of the presentation. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. If none of you can see it, then just let me know. Okay. Okay. Now I'm talking about starting on your career path. And hello,
I think can't see.
Oh, you
can't see it. Yeah.
Okay, wait, one sec. Let me try again. Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was visible. One sec.
It was visible.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, as long as it's visible now, that's fine. Give me a second. I think. Just give me a moment. I'm just going to bring it back up. For some reason, it was lagging. Okay, I'm going to share it now and just indicate if you're able to see it. Visible? Yes?
Yes,
Oh,
visible.
okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so starting on your career path, what I want to first talk about is the issue of job visibility. And I want to go into a more fundamental point, which is the need to be visible. Why am I talking about this is because for many of you, you may be confronted with this worry, this sort of existential, this really basic, fundamental personality trait where you really feel you don't want to actually expose yourself to the market or criticism. And you may have that issue even while you're going through your degree. You may feel very tentative in front of your class. You know, I used to teach public presentation. I know there's a certain category of students who just don't like putting themselves out there and prefer to be somewhat, you know, reserved. And that's fine as a personality trait. You know, it's completely acceptable. We just need to understand, though, that when it comes to the job market and when it comes to you in your career, it's very, very important to be able to overcome this hesitation that you may have about putting yourself out there. So there's really a need to be visible. There's a need to really get your image out there in the market. And I would like to say that over time, that anxiety that you feel, that concern that you have, that shyness that you may encounter will subside, will get less. But the reality is that that's something usually we all sort of have to deal with even as we move forward in our career. And Meng Chai knows we have senior level coaches who feel very shy about putting themselves out there as well. So really, just remember that that is a part and parcel of the process. You have to do it. You have to get out of your shell. And the reason is that you're either going to be noticed in the job market, or in your work, or in any particular area of life, or you risk getting ignored. And really, there are so many stories I could tell you where you have people who are high quality workers, high quality professionals, whose work ends up getting really dismissed or not even noticed. I recall a story. This is around 7-8 years ago, where we had a new staff member I was in a media training company, and she was a very diligent worker, but she was from a foreign country, and she had not really acclimated or gotten used to this new environment that she was in, work environment. So whenever she gave ideas, it would just be to her fellow workers. And when we had a meeting, she wouldn't raise her voice. And, you know, we would encourage her at times to say, hey, look, you should take ownership of this idea. And what happened was that she ended up, out of sort of frustration, remaining in the same position that she was in, even though she had done work to qualify her for 2 or 3 different types of promotions. And that type of story is a classic story of doing your job well, but not making a point to showing yourself or showing what you're doing. And really, you want to be able to overcome that. You can still be your personality self. You don't have to be a super socialite, but you have to be able to be visible, and you have to be able to be willing to gain exposure by putting yourself out there. Now, along with being visible, when it comes to you in particular, those of you who are starting on your professional journey, we want to make sure that you have visibility in the job market. It is a very uncertain job market that we're in right now. Of course, we're sort of recovering from the effects of COVID. It hasn't quite gotten to its full health as it used to, but there are certain sections of the job market that are surging. So what I say, it may be difficult for this to apply to all specific industries. Some industries are very, very particular in how they recruit, and some industries are very, very particular in terms of the sort of technical standards of the people who they recruit as well. So there may be exceptions here, but in general, one of the main ways you want to get yourself noticed is to create an online profile. And, you know, LinkedIn is definitely the profile that I recommend most for all of you who are starting on your professional process. And what I recommend is not to just create your own online profile, but also to optimize it. Optimize is just a fancy word that essentially means just make better, improve it, tweak it, so that it can get the maximum visibility as possible. So some quick tips I would say when it comes to setting up a LinkedIn profile. Usually in your LinkedIn, unless you have a position of what company you're already in, unless you have that, I wouldn't put student, for example, in the headline of what you're doing. I would put what type of opportunity you're seeking. So if you're seeking, for example, an opportunity in in branding and marketing, then put that, seeking opportunity in this particular field. Make sure your headline of what you put in your LinkedIn profile is very much connected to your interest of what you're seeking. And you don't have to be too narrow, but you also don't want to be just very, very wide where you say looking for an engaging professional opportunity, which is just a lot of this speak, which doesn't really actually tell you what you're particularly looking for. So if we're looking from the position of an employer, what they're looking for is you having at least a relatively good idea of what you want to do and having something in your online profile that stands out, that sets you apart from the other students in the job market. So you put some special attention there. If you're going to create a LinkedIn profile, which of course I do recommend, and I can talk more about creating your CV, but really I think you probably have gotten quite a lot of advice regarding how you're supposed to create your CV. But if you're going to go to the effort of making a LinkedIn profile, what I would suggest is to post regularly. It can be news related to activities you're doing. It can be photos of what you're doing even in your university. But just post, at least perhaps at a frequency of once, twice a week to keep your profile active so that somebody who's a recruiter who you apply for is able to see that your profile reflects a certain engagement. Yeah. And then lastly, of course, be presentable. Make sure that your image or photo is a nice one, something that looks fashionable, professional. But at the same time, there are students who sort of break the mold. There are students who show themselves as their profile photo where they're engaged in a certain activity, or they're in the field somehow doing something. So there may be an angle there you want to explore that is different. So this is just the first step, which is setting up your online profile. Very, very important for your visibility. And your profile is essentially how you see yourself relative to the market, right? So it's your idealized version of who you are that you want the world, the professional world, the job market to see. So think of it that way. With LinkedIn, you get the opportunity to create the professional that you want to be and present it as close as possible there. The next sort of step that we're looking at is trying to have a portfolio. Now, when I say portfolio, this depends, of course, on what sort of field you're in. The first question I think a lot of you may have is, well, I haven't done anything, so how can I have a portfolio? A portfolio essentially is a snapshot of the type of work you're capable of. It's the type of work you're sort of proud of. It's the type of work that an employer who's looking at your profile would have a sense that you can contribute to their organization. And I really think it's important to think about creating a portfolio, because this is something I see the really, really gifted candidates when it comes to the job market having in their, in their application versus those who don't have it. So a portfolio is samples of your work. So it can include things like audiovisual samples, videos, articles that you've gotten published, photos, photos of particular activities you were involved with. So there's another thing that is important. If you're doing activities, on campus, if you've done if you organize a donation drive, if you've were part of some volunteer network, all of that is an example of the type of stuff that you're involved with. And it can be professional, it can be purely voluntary. But try and go beyond the requirements of what is normally requested for an entry-level graduate, okay? Don't just fulfill the basic criteria and expect that your application is going to be moved forward beyond the rest. So have a portfolio ready. I'll give you an example later on of a portfolio from one of our interns at Urban Hijau, our Urban Farm Center, and what she did to just show the type of work that she actually accomplished. And hopefully that gives you a bit of inspiration as well. So having a portfolio, I think, is an essential step to getting this process forward. And think of just anything and everything that you can have there, that you can list there, that you can present there, that adds to your overall presentation. Okay. Now, the last step when it comes to visibility in the job market would be the need to learn to network. Networking is a skill. It is an essential skill to be able to build your circle of professional contacts. And through that circle, you're able to get access to so many more opportunities than you would have if you're just doing what we call a cold call email, where you're just sending an email to somebody, an organization, an HR department that has no prior awareness of you. So what I definitely recommend is to learn how to network. Now, how do we do online networking is interesting, because what you're doing now is you're having access to me and Meng Chai. We're two professionals. We may have our own links in different sectors. And at the end of this presentation, we're going to be sharing our email. So that's a professional contact. And if you think that we could have access to different opportunities that you may find worthwhile, then you just send an email and say, hey, I was there in your presentation. I noticed you said this, ABC, and I was interested to follow up on XYZ. So it's as simple as that. In this online environment, developing professional linkages and networks is not that uniquely hard. But even in your own university circles, if there's a particular teacher or professor who you think is very much active in the space that you want to be in, develop, I would say, a strategic friendship, so to speak, with that person. Now, I'm not saying don't be genuine and shake his hand, but inwardly you don't think much of the person. I'm not saying be like that. But what I am saying is, you know, as a former educator, I had students who proactively came to me and said, hey, you know, I'm interested in doing social impact work. And they knew that I worked in the area of social impact and doing different types of initiatives. And they're like, can you link me to opportunities? Because this is a genuine interest of mine. And you've seen that in class, I'm very engaged. And you know that I'm somebody serious. So for me, I'm comfortable recommending that person. So that's another professional network that you've built. So networking skills takes time to really perfect. But remember, even in your somewhat humble state, you can find a list of different networks that you can use and build over time. And these are going to connect you to opportunities that you are not even aware of. Okay. So I mentioned about portfolio. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to talk about we had one particular intern. Her name was Zalaika. She was working in the biotech sector. That's what she was studying. And this is her first internship at our farm. And her passion was to learn more about food waste management and how to run these type of sustainable systems. So she was very, very active person on the farm, and we benefited as a farm just by having her presence, and she was one of the more active interns asking questions. And at the end, on her own initiative, she said, I want to make a video where I can take a sample of everything that I learned about the farm, and I can use that for my own professional development later on as well. So what I'm going to do is just show you the video to give you at least a sample of what kind of portfolio work you can do. And this is, by the way, this is biotech sector. It's not even branding or marketing or PR. So she's just going out of her way to take this type of initiative, and it definitely reflects well on her. So just give me a moment while I share that particular clip. Okay. Give it a second to load.
Hi, I am Siti Zulaik.
Okay. Sorry if it's lagging, but we'll see. Let's start from the beginning.
Hi, I am Siti Zulaika binti Ismail. I'm from University Malaysia Perlis. Currently, I'm studying in Biosystem and Engineering course. So I will present about my internship journey with Urban Hijau in Taman Tun Dr. Ismail, Sungai Penchala, Kuala Lumpur. This is my experience.
Urban Hijau is a small urban farming within a city in Malaysia where the system of permaculture designing is based on the nature path itself. The sustainability system of Urban Hijau in growing food, production and distribution towards the environment has taught me a lot of things such as the beneficial of permaculture designing, soil processing, waste management, crop production and sales, and the community social responsibility project as well. I have learned about the rainwater harvesting and conservation practice, which is very important. It is interesting to learn about the soil from the composting method by using browns, organics and manure, observing the microbial activity phase through the temperature differences, mixing the soil and use it to grow plant. This is our well-grown purple red type of corn in Urban Hijau. The pineapple waste can be used for composting and pineapple enzyme production. Banana peel waste is put inside our worm bin for vermicomposting process. Even cardboard can be used as our planters, and the slaughtered fish waste such as gills is then used for the fish amino acid production. Organic waste is useful for our coal compost. The eggshell can be a great calcium fertilizer for the plant. We also use coffee ground waste to prevent the weed growth. Drying and shredding process is applied to break down the dried waste into pieces. I am currently working out with the flowchart and AutoCAD diagram of the aquaponics system. The aquaponics water testing is done to observe the changes of pH, ammonia, nitrite and nitrate. I learned.
Okay, so that's a sample of what she did. And imagine, if she tried to list out what exactly she learned just in terms of putting it on her CV. Of course, it would be a very dry description of her whole journey into learning more about sustainability. But the fact that she went out of her way to make it as a video sample presentation on her own initiative. Of course, we can quibble about the audiovisual quality and the editing and everything. I mean, that's not her field, but she definitely stands out, and we're intending to hire her later as once she finishes her degree. And by the way, if anybody is in that field, if you're interested in an internship opportunity, you can always reach out to me, because we do take interns on a regular basis at our farm as well. Which leads to the next point of what I want to talk about, which is trying to find the right job opportunity. Give me one moment. I'll get back to our slides. Okay, now searching for the right opportunity. What is probably very common for most of you is you're going to do an online search, which, of course, I'm not going to blame you if you don't have your personal contacts who can link you up with particular types of jobs. Then you may want to just do an online search. So I'd give you some practical tips. This is from working a bit in digital marketing. If you're going to do a keyword search of a particular type of job, don't be so particular to the exact job title, okay? Because sometimes the right job that you're looking for may not be specifically listed in that job title. So if you're looking to be a brand assistant, or if you're looking to be a communication officer, let's say that's your particular position, you don't have to limit your searches to that specific term. You can look at particular terms related to, that sector, and then once you find that sector, then you look at the jobs that are offered for that entry-level position. But trying to just do it on a very, very limited search engine basis can kind of lead you to certain dead ends where you start thinking that there may not be anything out there. So be very careful about what we call SEO, search engine optimization, which is another way of saying how to use a search engine. And make sure your search is a bit wide, and then it's specific to the fields and the activities that you want to be involved with, as opposed to just the particular job title that you're looking for. And I know it may take a bit longer, but it is more worthwhile in our experience. Another thing is, especially if you're in LinkedIn, is to follow those companies you're interested in. So if you're looking at CIMB or Bank Islam, let's say, if you're in the banking sector, you follow those particular companies on LinkedIn. You keep apprised of their developments. You see, okay, they've had a good turnover, they've had a good recent cycle, they were doing these type of CSR activities. Notice what they're doing, so that when it comes time to an interview, you would have understood that what that company journey is on, what the journey the company is on, much before you've actually set foot into that interview hall. So follow the companies that you're interested in from now. And then another reason is also because if you're not very clear about what you want, when you follow these different types of companies, when you see what professionals are doing in the space, you begin to sort of formulate an idea of what you want to do as well, right? And you begin to see examples out there of people who are following a professional journey that you like. But if you're disconnected from that and you're just going to doing Google searches of a company and then just immediately sending your CV, it's going to end up being quite ineffective at times. And that's not an approach I normally recommend. So when it comes to cold call emails, cold call meaning you're just unsolicited, just sending an email to an organization, it's going to be a very limited approach unless your CV is really outstanding. When it comes to internships, in terms of building your professional portfolio, I really stress, I can't stress it enough, start looking for internships, I would say even from your first year. Now, maybe some in the academic circles would shy from that and say, hey, you need to focus on your studies. Look, I'm an educator. I realize students should be focused on their studies. I'm not saying do things on the side that are going to take away from that. But really, from your first year, you want to develop some professional experience that you can use. So as soon as you go to the market, you have an edge over your competitors, being very frank about it. So from your first year, look at internships, part-time internships, things that you can manage. Even 2-month internships are something useful. But really, why wait? I know it's fun to just sit down and play video games in your off time, which we all do, right? But I think it is very critical for those of you to get a leg up by working an internship or doing some type of professional experience. Maybe you could be selling cookies via Instagram. That's still an entrepreneurial opportunity that you're using your time constructively, but do it from your first year. Get a referral letter. You can get a referral letter from your teachers. It's not going to be as effective, but definitely in terms of the internships that you do, you want to get a referral letter, or you want to get somebody who agrees to refer you when it comes to a more professional type of job. And then you want to track your achievements. Now, when I say track your achievements, there's a chapter of our book where we use a phrase, know your numbers. And the idea is that everything you do can be quantified. Everything that you do can be split into certain numbers. So if you, for example, with Zuleika, she did waste management. Now, waste management is activity. Okay, she helped process the waste into compost. That's fine if you're just going to write that description. But if you want to go one step ahead, you could say, yes, she processed over 4 tons of waste into 4 tons of compost, which was then distributed throughout 5 different plots in the land. So you've taken what is a very general thing into a very specific, quantifiable thing. And you can do the same when it comes to your achievements in your internships, in your student organizations that you're part of, anything that you're doing. Track your achievements with numbers. How many students did you get involved? How did you mobilize them, right? How much money did you raise? If you did fundraising for some good cause. All of these can be put into numbers. And when you put those numbers on your CV, when you put those numbers as in your profile in LinkedIn, it'll set you apart from others. And lastly, I mentioned before, and I'm going to restate again, is when you build your networks, your industry contacts, try and join these type of events as much as you can. Industry events, things that are related to certain key topics in the industry. Join them so you know what the trends are happening, and then you're much more informed when it comes to the actual interview. Make sure you ask the right questions to the people who are the experts. And what is the right question? A right question is a question that shows curiosity, a question that shows your level of interest and passion, and a question that will help you understand more about how that industry works in the real world. And lastly, I'm just going to sort of end it at this point where, again, be ready to explore, be ready to search and have that constant sense of curiosity and willingness to learn about your field, which you can then take wherever you go in your professional journey. So on that note, I'm going to end it here. I'm going to pass it to Meng Chai, who's going to talk about the next level of the job search process when it comes to, doing well in your interview and then starting on your job journey. Okay.
Thank you, Saqib. Thank you for that detailed sharing of of guiding the candidates what to do to get themselves visible, and it's just part of the marketing effort. Basically, now that you as the student, when you finish your journey in the university, in colleges, you are now considered a finished good. You are the finished product. After going through the development, and you are now ready for the market. No matter how good you are as a product of the learning institution, you are still a product. You need to be marketed. No matter how good you are, you need to be marketed. And your job right now is, unless you have somebody who is marketing you, you have to learn how to market yourself, which is what Saqib has shared with you. And also learn how to find yourself being in the right place, the right job, the right industry, and the right company. Now, if you get all that done, what I'm going to share with you will be the next step that you can take. So I'm going to share with you the screen right now. Okay. Is it visible to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. What I'll be touching on is two parts. Okay, the first one is give you some tips on how to ace your interview. Assuming now you have you did all the right thing and you got yourself an interview. Your resume at the end of the day will only do one thing. It's supposed to only do one thing, your CV or your resume, and that is to get you to an interview. So you don't put everything on your resume to the extent that there's nothing, that's going to happen in the interview, and it will be so thick that no interviewer will actually want to look at your resume. And the key is find a way just to provide a teaser so you get a chance to be interviewed. Assuming now you go to go interview, I'm going to share with you 4 tips to do when you get that opportunity for interview. So here goes. First one. Before that, there's something about the mindset that I need to prepare you guys as the student going into the working world. If you are a student and you are going to the working world and thinking like an employee, a lot of time you will probably be defeated. What I want to get you to think about are some mindset into making sure that people look at you differently. And the first one is looking at the glass half full or half empty. There are people, no matter what you do, they tend to look at glass as half empty. Now, we know that a glass, if the water fill up with half, you can look at it either half full or half empty. They are actually the same. But when you choose to look at half empty, you tend to be more negative in the way you look at things. And where I want to prepare for you to think about it is to look at things at half full. That means be positive in all the things that you do, not just at work, but life in general. See whether this one makes sense. I want you to imagine if today you hire a plumber. The plumber comes to your house. Obviously, you have a reason why you had hired a plumber, and the plumber asks you, sir, ma'am, what problem do you have? Then you bring them to the house, then they say, well, my water bill is very high. And I know there's some leakage in the house, but I just don't know what's the problem. And can you help me? So then you ask, what's the problem with the water bill? They say, well, it's 20 times above my normal, so there must be some leakage somewhere. And imagine if you are a plumber, you walk around the house, you say, man, the pipes are all embedded under the ground or in the wall. There's nothing I can do because I can't see the pipe. I cannot fix it because they are behind the wall or they are under the floor. What do you think the client will do? They won't pay you because you're just telling them the problem they already know. So you're not helping the situation by just telling the problem and by just saying what is very obvious, the problem. And this is the mindset that you need to avoid in organizations. Everybody wants, in organizations, they want you to be a solution provider, not a problem identifier. Problem identifier will not get you, but problem provider, a solution provider will get you there. So always think the positive, because when you are positive, you're more likely to get there. So the first mindset, a reminder for that. The second mindset is I want you to tell you a story about two young friends. They are walking in the forest. And while they're walking in the forest, both of them notice there's a bear staring at them. They look at each other and they just say, well, the bear looks hungry. What do you think we should do? And one of them say, I think we should run. Then the other one say, yeah, I think you're right. The bear looks hungry and they wanted to run. Okay, so one of them start running. The other one bent over, took down his haversack and took out his shoe. And the first one say, what are you trying to do? The bear is coming after us and you are trying to, change your shoe? Yeah, but the guy said, yes. Yeah, I know the bear is running after me, but I'm changing my shoe because I'm changing the shoe to not to outrun the bear, but to outrun you. So the moral of this story tells you that sometimes you think the problem is not the problem. So if you think the problem is the bear, it's not. Okay, if you can outrun the other person, your problem is solved. What I want to share with your thinking is when you are looking for a job, the company will always work with the best candidate that they have. Your job is to figure out, are you the best candidate that they're going to see? All right. They are not going to get the best candidate in the world, but they are going to just get the best candidate that appears in front of them. Your job is to figure out, how can I be that person? Hence, the work that you do have to be compared against how the other candidates, what would they do, what would they think? As long as you are ahead of them, your chance in terms in the job search will already be almost done already. Okay, so here's tip number one. When you get an interview for a company, how much do you know about the company that you are going for? Unfortunately, I would say a lot of people don't know the company that they are going for, or either that they do very superficial work. And I want to encourage you to do a little bit more, not because of anything, but because I say you want to be better than the next candidate. Okay, and so what would you do? Here's what you can do in terms of the work that you want to, the homework. Find out more about the business performance. Now, if you're going to join a listed company, easy. You get a lot of information available on the internet and all that, the financial performance, the business performance. You can do that, download it. If you don't understand how to interpret the financial numbers and all that, get help. All right. Talk to people who have some understanding how to understand financial performance. Look at the industry trend. Read out some news, some latest things that is about them, what the business is in, what industry they are, how are they impacted. You know, is it a global organization? Is it a local organization? Is it a family business? Is it a GLC? How is the government policy affecting them? Things like this. Okay. Today, the hot topic is inflation. Are they impacted by inflation? Is it positively impacting them or negatively impacting them? What are the business challenges that organizations are having? Okay, like example, some organization they are affected by pandemic. Some organization benefits because of pandemic, like glove stock. You know, they benefit because of pandemic. All right. If you're talking about Genting or AirAsia, they are affected by pandemic. So there are organizations that go through different challenges and all that. Now, then you want to think about what's the organization structure and the headcounts. Why is that important? If you join an organization with small number, a small structure, a small headcount, think about your career. How far can you go in that career? If you have only a 10% inside working in the one company, all right. Out of 10%, 4% could be family members, or could be wife, or could be something like that. So yes, there is work. Yes, you do get paid. But how far do you go in that career? That means how long or how short your career can be. Think about structure and headcounts from the perspective of your future. And if you talk about the first three things about business performance, industry trends, and business challenges and all that, why do you want to have all this knowledge? It gives you a fertile ground for you to have information about the business so that you can go into another phase of the interview when you're actually sitting in front of the interviewer. Okay, you have more information that you can talk about, right? And you can, if you want to, can impress the interviewer with the amount of knowledge you have about the business and about the industry that you're in. All right. Compare this against other organizations in the similar industry. Okay, is this one of the leading company in the same industry, or are they not? If they are not, why are they not? So you have some background information on this. The whole idea is to enlarge your knowledge about the business. A lot of candidates makes the mistake of just focusing on themselves. Okay, how to write the interview, how to write the resume, how to answer the question. A lot of things about themselves. Yes, that is important, but not good enough. Okay, it's the same thing when if you are a plumber, you go to a house to solve the problem. You want to know a lot more about the client. All right. If you are working for an organization, you want to know a lot more about the organization of which you are subsequently going to join. Then the next tip is prepare and plan. Now, before the interview, you need to understand what the interview is designed to do. Okay, how the interview used to filter the candidates. How do they know that they are getting the best? There is the saying in the industry, if you talk to any HR person or in an organization, there is a certain mantra they use, okay? Hire slow, fire fast. There's this term they use, hire slow, fire fast. Now, what they mean by hire slow, fire fast? If you get the wrong person in the organization, they will have a lot of damage to the business. They make decision wrongly, they do the work wrongly, a lot of business. I remember on the first day, the very first day, I joined a company. Okay, I was in audit. I joined an audit firm, and going to the office sharp 8:30. The audit partner called me in the room and have a conversation with me for an hour. The first bit of the conversation states that for the first year you are in this firm, you are a liability, not an asset. I was taken aback. I thought generally, employees, a lot of bosses call my employees are my asset, and here I have a boss telling me that I'm a liability rather than an asset. And it took me a while for me to understand what he meant. Okay, and actually it's true. Because when we are first hired to join an organization, we don't know anything about the business. We thought that we studied, okay, and we get a degree, and we thought we know what to do in work. I have very, very bad news to share with you, if that's what you are thinking. The degree that you get, okay, is just a clue to an employer about your potential. It doesn't say anything about your capability. Literally zero, but it provides a clue to them about your potential, meaning that your degree is a proof that you have someone who's disciplined, you have some level of intelligence because you could finish your degree, you could, and you could be someone who's capable of learning. You are just providing a clue to the business of what kind of person they are likely to get when they hire you. But there is no evidence whatsoever that you can do the job. Why? Simply because you don't know actually what the job is all about. Okay, you still need to learn on the job. Now you can learn everything. Like example, if you study accounting and all that, you would not know next to nothing about audit. The actual audit work, you still do not know because you have not been to a single company how to do audit unless you have been in the intern before. So therefore, there are things that you need to understand how the organization looks at candidates. But at the same time, you need to know what is the deal that you are looking at. Okay, so you're selling yourself, but what is it about you that you're selling? So here are some of the things you think you're going to look for. What do organizations look for? How do they look? Okay, so now I'm attached with this organization called DDI, or Development Dimension International, for 12 years. Okay, our job as the leading, global talent organization, we advise organization how to conduct interviews, how to look for people, what are the tools and framework we use to identify the right candidates. Now, one of the tools we use is what we call the profile success. Now, what organization, now the better run organization has been trained to do this. All right, they have trained to look at people in a certain manner. Now, this model is used very widely, and when we look at candidates, they are looking at 4 areas of candidate. Okay, to say that generally, if you have this in place, you are more likely to be able to ensure that the candidate will be more likely to be successful in the organization. So the first one is to look at knowledge. Okay, knowledge is about what do people know? Okay, what do they know? So if you want to be an auditor, obviously you need to know something relating to accounts, double entry, bookkeeping, some technical knowledge that will put you in a better position to perform your task. There's nothing to say yes or no. Okay, everything is a spectrum. Like example, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think this person is? So they have a way to track that. Well, technically, this person is about 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 or 2 or whatever the number is, because they will be able to make some form of assessment to find out what's the level of knowledge needed to perform that job. Okay, and bear in mind, the person that is interviewing you are so much more experienced. which means that they actually have a knowledge about what kind of people they are looking for in this area. The next one is look at experience. What experience has this person have done, okay, in the past that suggests that they have the needed skill to do the work. Now, imagine if you are just a graduate, there will be very little that you can actually talk about experience here. All right, and that's fine because they know that they're hiring a graduate. So the expectation in this area will be low, and that will be fine. But the fact that you understand experience is a needed component, gives you the idea that when you are working, you need to start thinking about what experience is needed in terms of performing if you intend to go for different jobs. Okay, experience is always a important component. The third one is about people. What is the disposition of a person? That means this person is more likely to be detail-oriented, people-oriented, or personality. What personality is this person? Now, organization generally now they have personality tools, which means that they get you to answer a serious question, whether online or offline. You answer them, and these are designed by psychologists. So it's very hard for you to cheat. You are given a certain amount of time. Within a certain amount of time, you're asked to very quickly go through these questions. All right. And the first answer that comes to mind probably is the right answer. You go through this. And if you have not done any of this, then I would suggest your students department here maybe can organize a certain profiling tool and activity for you guys to do. Like example, you can do MBTI, you can do some kind of personality test, okay, that will give you some idea that can make you a bit, help you understand a little bit more about yourself, all right? Organization have that, and they look for certain sign about the suitability or what kind of personality will be suited for certain jobs, okay, and that's part. And last but not least, that what people can do are looking at their competencies, clusters of behaviors that were needed to perform a certain task. I'll give you an example. If you are going to be someone that is going to be, let's say, a relationship manager for a bank, or somebody who's going to do a lot more customer service in the hotel industry, your job, whether you like it or not, is going to deal with a lot of customers. And dealing with customers, come across, there are many different type of people out there. They have a different demands. Are you able to handle those demands? And some people will find it very tiring. Some people don't have this ability to be either customer focused or provide customer service or be more attentive to customer. This is the nature of the job. Some people have the certain behavior that allow them to do this job. Some people don't. Some people don't even like it. So the companies will be looking for things like this. So these are what we call, this is one example of profiling tools. Using these profiling tools, they are looking for the candidate that they want. So understand that organizations are already prepared what kind of candidates they're looking for. And for yourself, you have to start thinking about, well, just now Saqib mentioned about writing a CV and all that. So when you do that, what do you put on your CV? What are you offering? What are you telling the interviewer about? Who are you? What are you offering? A lot of people will put example, academic qualification and all that. Yeah, you can put that, like I say, it provides a clue, okay, but it's not definitive. I will share with you a little bit about what is more definitive for organizations. So what's in your CV? Now, in business, in any kind of organization, there is a good understanding that if you are, as an individual alone, you are not able to provide a lot of results because you are alone. A lot of results can only come if people are working together, in a team. So therefore, they could be looking at any kind of skill that suggests that you are able to work in a team. Like example, collaboration, leadership, things like this. And this is the reason why in your CV, do you have something that suggests you have some universal qualities that organization need that they can use in their organization? Now, a clue. Now, what will be a clue? Example, if you are in a university or in school, have you been a president of a society or a club? Have you joined a uniform body? Have you organized activity before? What kind of things that suggest that you are somebody that can work well with people, that can lead people? Okay, so clues like this will also add value to your CV very strongly. So understand what you are offering, and what you're offering must have to be something the organizations are looking for. Hence, after going through that, now you got to start thinking about it cannot be a one-way street, meaning that yes, this is what I'm good, this is how good I am, this is what I have and all that. But what are you looking for? If, well, again, I say a big proportion of candidates, when they go into a work, the first thing, which I don't think is a wrong thing, is that they look for money. Okay, I want X amount of money, I want X, that's fine. Okay, you want money, and everybody understand you want money. But I would put it another way. If you are just looking for money, you are sending the wrong signal to organization. Because when you're looking for money, you become a lot more transactional. That means you give me how much, I work how much. Okay, and the signal that you send to the employee will be, well, now they will be a bit more careful. What you want to do is to send the right signal, okay, at the interview, and that is thinking about learning opportunities. Okay, so what you want to buy is you want to buy learning opportunity. You want to look for organization with learning opportunity. Why? Because from learning opportunity, if you have a lot of learning opportunity, then you have growth. Because through learning, you get growth. And from growth, and you are able to do more, you become more productive, you become more efficient, more effective, and all that. Money just comes. All right. So by looking at the money, you miss this opportunity for growth and for learning. But if you understand what you want to do for look for in an organization is an opportunity to learn, opportunity to grow, money follows. And I will give you some example how that happens. Okay, later part of the slide. Now, tip number 3, now you are at the interview itself. So during this interview, there are going to be questions to be asked. Okay, so what are the questions that you want to ask? Now, differentiate yourself from others again. Ask questions like this. Example, can you share some of my daily duties and responsibilities for my role? Why you want to ask that? Because you are curious as to what is it that you want to do or you should do. Okay, it suggests that you are more proactive to working. Now, I want you to understand that every question is sending a signal. You are creating impression. So through the questions, the impression you are giving to the interviewer is the one that is going to give you higher marks. Okay, can you share some of the daily duties and responsibility? How could I impress you in my first 3 months of joining? Again, you are sending the impression that I'm here to do a lot more. Okay, why? Because I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. And that's the reason why I want to find ways how to impress you. You have, let me know what can I do to impress you. Okay, and you get some guidance so you don't simply kind of go everywhere and do a lot of things unnecessarily. What opportunity training? Again, this goes back to the growth I'm talking about. Training and progression in this role and this organization. Are there opportunities? You are suggesting to them that you are interested to grow, not just money. All right, you are here to learn. Okay. And if you're thinking, if you're asking a question, what do you think this company is heading in the next 3 to 5 years? If this organization have a certain size, if this is something that you can read about it. But if something you don't know, you can ask. Okay, why? Because you want to tell the organization that I'm here for the long term. Okay, you want to write for the the duration of where the company is going, but let them tell you about the company. Okay. And be free, be bold to ask that. And you have the right to ask. What do you enjoy most about? Now, you want to ask this question, and these questions like this will not be quite expected by the interviewers. Interviewers, when you go into interview kind of environment, the natural tendency is that interview is holding the upper hand, interviewee is holding the lower hand. So it's kind of a not comfortable kind of relationship, because one is the master-slave kind of relationship. What you want to do is to change the equation, equal. You are looking something from me, I'm also looking something from you. All right. Now, when I'm looking something from you, again, you are sending a different, creating impression that you are taking control of your career, that you want to know something that is important to you. Why? Simple reasons, because if I don't find the right thing in the organization, I don't think you want me to take me. Reason is because if if I'm not going to stay long, if I'm going to stay only 3 months, 6 months, why would you want to hire me? Okay. And if you hire me, you want to know that I stay for the long term. And the only way I know I can stay for the long term is because it's the right environment. So that's the reason why you ask the questions, and therefore you're sending the signal to the interviewer that you're very serious in this interview by asking, what do you enjoy most about working in the organization? So the interviewer has to tell you. Now, this is where you can engage for yourself. Is there truth in what they say? All right. Share a little bit about the team I'll be working with. And you want to know a bit the background of the team. Okay. How many people are there? What kind of people? About all this is about curiosity, is about interest, sending the right signal to the interviewer. Now, the last question is the one that a lot of people, hardly anybody asks this question. Okay, I'm giving you this secret, so-called in the interview, that you can use. Work with them and ask them, like, what advice would you give me if I'm your family member about to join this organization? Now, this question, it is a very bold question. It takes a lot of courage to ask, because you put the onus on the company or on the person interviewing you to tell the truth. If I'm your family member, would you recommend me to join this organization? Now, they are put in the spot. What do they say? Watch their body language, watch how they say and all that. It will give you a clue about the organization you're joining. So there are many questions that you can design. What I'm sharing you is that these questions are all there to help you in so many ways, not for you just to know, but to create impression of the interview about you. Notice the questions I don't ask is about money, how long, what's the working hours between this and that. When you ask questions like this, you are indicating to them how shallow you're thinking. Here, you have only one shot. Sometimes you got one interview, sometimes you may go for next interview. What will qualify you for subsequent interview is the quality of question you ask, because that will give a peek into your mind. All right. Now, there is something post-interview. You can always send them a thank you after the interview for the opportunity. Do something different again from others, which 95% of people probably don't even do this. Okay, after the interview, you just wait, nothing. Send them an email, thank them for the opportunity, check with them when's a good time to follow up the outcome of the interview. Show that you are eager, you are earnest. Okay, be gracious. If you don't get a job, send another thank you and ask them a feedback. Okay, what could you do better? And you'll be surprised with some of the feedback. Okay, and you're also sending a signal about the difference between you and others. If they look at 100 people and you are the only one doing this, guess who's they going to call the next time they're looking for candidate? All right. So here's what you do is constantly look for ways to improve your interview. All right. Now, my next section talks about if you already have the job, let's say you are identified, join us. So what do you do? So I want to share with you some of the things, the 3 tips that you can do in terms of when you are offered a job. The first one is immediately engage your direct supervisor, which is your boss. All right. Find out what's the expectation. All right. Set milestone. What do you want to see, hope to see in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and all that? And how do I know I'm going to get there? What kind of help you need? Okay. Think about things like that. Set milestone. And ask for review sessions. Review sessions, that means how often should we meet up? Once in every 2 weeks, once a month, and we can sit down. And what are the things that we want to talk about each time we sit down? Now, why you do this? Here is most of the time why some candidates, in fact, a lot of candidates fail in their job. It's because they don't know what is expected of them. Okay, they leave it to chance. They leave it, my boss knows better, therefore my boss will be the one that's going to do a lot of things for me. Here is where you are not taking charge of your career. Understand one thing. Number 1, your boss is busy. Number 2, your boss have a lot of direct reports. And number 3, you just really want to differentiate yourself from all the other candidates again. Okay, by taking control. And you make it easy for your boss to work with you. Okay. Now, build relationship is something that is absolutely critical. When my daughter, okay, want to start in an audit firm, when they first joined the audit firm, I asked her, I said, by the time you leave the audit firm, tell me what is it that you want to have achieved when you leave. Okay. Now, a standard answer would be, and she well, just give me a standard answer. I would like to have learned how to audit the company. I would like to learn how do I look at the financial statement and all that. I say, yeah. But I say that is not critical. Why? If you're going to do a job like this every day, whether you like it or not, you would know all these things because you do it so often. So that is not your end game. Your end game in joining a business, when you leave a business, are the relationship you build. Okay. And there are actually 4 relationships. The first one is your boss. Just now I told you already, if you engage your boss, you form a relationship, manage even your own bosses. Now your team members, engage your team. Okay. If you don't have a subordinates, now you engage your team members. The other one is other team, your colleagues, okay, in the other teams. And final one is your clients, your business partner, could be your suppliers and all that. All these are important relationships that you need to be able to form. If you leave an organization and you're able to form this kind of relationship, you would have been very successful. All right. And the reason I mentioned to you this is because I want you to go in day one to understand that this is what you should look for, and this is what is going to go a very long way. Okay. Now, in terms of exceed the expectation, learn. Your job is to constantly exceed expectation, and the only way you can do that is constantly learn. All right. Never stop learning. Every moment, every minute, every second you have. Okay. And reflect upon them. If you have an opportunity, try to be visible internally as well. The first 3 months you got to do is, if there's any activities, whether it's formal or informal, be there. If you can be volunteer, organize or participate in formal or informal events. All right. And if you do it right and you appear right, you will attract mentors. Okay. And that is, to me, is the most important asset you can have when you are having a career, is to attract mentors. What I want to show you a sample, okay, as to how this can be done. If you look at this particular testimonial, because in our book, we talk about a strategy. And one of the strategy we talk about in charge of your career, take charge of your career, is getting testimonial. Here you can see what are the key things I want you to notice for when you are looking at a testimonial. You can see proactive, propose solution. Okay, you can see this is given by a feedback by the bosses, okay, or colleagues. Proactive, propose solution. Okay, improve scenarios. All right, drive result, very focused, align goals, and okay, and put in process. So I want you to look for keywords. Why I want to share with you the keywords? Because through the keywords, then you can understand that these are the things that stands out, that people see and people appreciate and people value, and it goes a very long way. Nimble in learning, quick in picking up things, okay? Apply learnings. So keywords like this, all right? Now, another one is this, willing to see things from different perspectives, consistent, reliable, trustworthy. Watch out the keywords. Now, these are observable action that people see, okay? Good leader, a mentor, okay? Shows and share a lot of skill knowledge, okay? Help people when needed. A good friend and a colleague. See the words that they use. And I want you to understand that targeting things like this, a good team player, very cooperative, drive result, tremendous, even within a tremendous stress and deadline can, okay? Submit work in progress, even late, can still produce result in short time frame. Notice how people observe you. You don't have to do things. When you are doing the right thing, people observe you. I want to give you an example. This is a manager's input on feedback, okay? Great ability to coordinate, ability to lead plan monthly, okay? Suggest new mechanics, ensure team submit on time, excellent attitude, self-motivated, responsible, resilient. All these are the words of the people you work for, okay? Able to teach and guide, open-minded, take up new challenges, all right? Good rapport with the rest of the team. You see, all these are not in your resumes, all right? And that's why if you are working the first 3 months, you want to target for things like this to happen. Now, this is a teammate performance, a testimonial from teammates, okay? Able to take on initiative, lead it well, okay? Clear message, easy follow instruction, executed minimal hiccup, works well with all parties, okay? All feedback considered, quite detail oriented, okay, and who executed well, great teammate. Again, testimonial. Okay, now this is the last one. I just want to show you that it is possible to get all these things accurate in terms of task given, executed perfectly in the dispatch short timeline. Okay, so, and these are specific example of what they have seen, they have observed, and they put in place. Very responsive, okay, willing to stand by, okay, to help. Things like this. Now, when you see things like this, then if you understand when you go to work, these are all the observable behaviors that they will make you stand out. So after the interview, 3 months into the job, look for all these opportunities to do this. My final word of advice is you can have everything in life if you want, if you just always focus on helping other people. Now, when I say helping other people get what they want, your colleagues, your teammates, your bosses, your suppliers, your customers, you don't have to focus on money, because the money will be there at the end of the day. Why? Because the 2% I just gave the example are my own daughters. Okay, these are the feedback that they have. Okay, and both of them have now very successful career. The person mentioned just now, the first one, Natalie. Okay, she's working in the foreign MNCs and she's getting promotion, and she's now joining another MNCs, and she's only in their 20s, already earning 5 figures income, which is very possible for you guys. Second one, Nikki. Okay, she just joined an organization for first year with that kind of work attitude and the feedback. She just got a promotion last month, and they gave her more than 50% in pay increase. All right, it just means that everything is possible if you understand what is needed to do the work. All right, so thank you very much. Over back to Janice. Sorry. Have I lost anyone?
Let me go and check.
Yeah.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I was disconnected just now suddenly.
All right. Okay. So sorry about that.
It's okay. Thank you, Mr. Saqib and Mr. Tan, for your sharing. So for the students, do you have any questions for Mr. Saqib and Mr. Tan regarding your career or regarding your future career path? If you guys have any question, you may drop it in the chat box.
There was a question earlier. This, I think, Meng Chai, you can answer. Tio, he asked a question. Yeah, do I send the thank you email before or after I get an offer, or don't get an offer at all?
Okay, you send an email right after you finish your interview. That's first thing. All right. So if you go for interview today, the next day you send an email, or even within the same day you can send an email to thank them for taking their time off to interview you. Okay, so that's the first thing you differentiate yourself from others already. All right. Getting an offer, in fact, if you do the right thing, you will get an offer. Okay, so your email would have gone out already in the first instance. All right, now the moment you get an offer, then you have a different way of working with the organization. Of course, you want to see whether you want to accept the offer, and if there's any other thing, you want to have conversation with them about your offer. But the email is very important. Right after your interview, send the email.
Okay, there's a question from Wong Ting Ho Daniel. How do an introvert be visible in the work industry?
My daughter, just now when I mentioned Natalie, okay, she's an introvert. All right. Now, the good thing about whether you're introvert, extrovert, there are definite work for you, and there's a place for you in organization. Your job is to produce result for the business. In what way can you produce result for the business? All right. And sometimes it's not about knowing everybody. The question is that, do people trust you? Do they trust you? Are you someone that can consistently be relied upon when you're doing your part of the work, that you can extend your ability to help others and all that? Okay, and that's nothing to do with introvert. If you are willing to help people, if you are willing to do the job, you will be well received in the organization by your teammates and by your colleagues. So don't let the introverts slows you. Again, goes to half full, not the half empty part. Okay, they are always positive in everything you are and what you do.
Yeah, I would just add to what Meng Chai said, that being an introvert doesn't mean that you can't display the work that you're doing. I think that even the sample I gave with Zuleika, she's an introverted personality, generally speaking. She doesn't necessarily go out of her way to make chit chat or socialize, but her work sort of speaks for itself, and she does take the opportunity to at least present what she's done. So being an introvert doesn't necessarily have to hold you back in your career.
Yep. I have a very interesting question that Jenny sent out that I just noticed. I don't know who sent this, but the question is asked is it so hard to find high salary job? I have a good answer for you. No, it's not hard. Okay, high salary job is always there. Understand how high salary works. High salary works because you are somebody capable of producing a lot of results for an organization. Your job is not to figure out about the high salary. Your job is to figure out how to get massive result for the business. Now, there are two ways you can get massive result for the business. One, you try to do everything yourself. Two, you try to do it through some people. Okay, if you do everything yourself, you can, but it will require you to be someone like a scientist. Maybe, you have a good research, you found a formula, you have developed a software program. There's something that's so unique about you that other people don't have, that you contribute to something the organization wants. You can do that. Or you can work through with a team of people. Okay, you can collaborate, you can lead, you can all that. Like CEO. CEO is a team lead. They lead the whole organization and they produce massive results. So as long as you provide and you get massive result for the organization, there is no way a company would not give you salary, because if they want to hold on to you, they will give you a lot of salary. So not that hard. Not that hard.
Okay, thank you. There's another question from Patrick. May I ask, in our career and our life, what is the most important thing that we need to focus instead of the desirable thing like money and car?
That's almost a philosophical question. In fact, you've had people like Aristotle, Socrates. They've been asking these questions for a long time. I'll give my answer, and maybe Meng Chai you can give yours. I would just say this. Something you appreciate as you get older is time, because time is the most precious commodity you have, because you don't get it back as soon as it slips by. So the question then is, what do you do with the time that you have in your career and in your life? And your priorities, or what you care about, will be reflected in the time that you spend on various things. So just keep that in mind. Now, I would say this is an answer that you have to figure out yourself. What is the thing that is most important to you? There isn't really one answer, I would say. For some people, it is career. For some people, it's family. Some people, it's social work. I'm not sure there's really one answer, but I do know that unless you explore a bit, or unless you take the time to reflect, it'll be hard to find out. So that would be my answer.
Last month, I gave a session to MNC, and there was more than 100 of employees attended there. One of the things I asked them is that, what will be your goal, when you work? Now, the standard answer given by people will be more money or more time. And I think nothing wrong with more money or more time. And I gave my personal reflection about what my goals are in life. My goals are, I just want to be happy. All right. So a simple smiley face, being happy. But the challenge about being happy, which I believe a lot of people would like to have that, but you got to think about the source of your happiness. Okay. So to me personally, the source of my happiness is I have a good family. Okay. I have good health. I have good friends. Okay. I serve the community. I add value to others, and I have a peace of mind. Example: these are my sources of happiness. But having said that, yeah, so I know the source of my happiness, but what do I need to do to get that part? Let's say I want to have a good family life. My family is happy, my children are well educated, they are well behaved. But how do I get that? That's where money and time comes in. With more money and time, I can solve that part. With more money and time, I can solve the health. With more money and time, I can help more people. I can have more fun. With more money and the time, I will have peace of mind. So by doing all those things that are important to me, which are sources for my happiness, therefore I'm happy. So that's how I share my moments with the
So to sum up,
employees.
basically, money is a means, not an end.
Yes, correct. Money and time is tools. They are tools.
Okay, now there's another concern from McLaren Stewart. I often heard that working in the government is difficult as it involves external factors and biases when it comes to climbing the career ladder. May I know whether is it worth it?
So the question on external factors and biases, I think that exists in corporate sphere as well. It's not necessarily exclusive to just government work. Yeah, it has its own set of certain challenges. I would say the nature of government work is very bureaucratic and very structured and very much process oriented and very much with a lot of protocols. Now, for some people, they like that type of environment with a very, I guess you could say, a very predictable type of progression up a career, and working in the public sector in general is something that motivates them. But it's hard to generalize also because various government departments may function very differently. And especially Malaysian government, yeah, it really depends on which department you're in. I had some experience with um, Ministry of Information, and I know the environment there is quite different compared to, for example, immigration. So that's something you have to keep in mind. But definitely one common thing is bureaucracy and working in a very sort of structured environment. That would be my take. Well, Meng Chai?
Here's what I want to encourage people to do. You know, there's always this thing called employment and employability. All right. When you're looking at employment, you're thinking about the confine of an organization. If then you are subject to everything that goes on in the organization. The way I would advise students to do, and also employees to do, is make yourself employable. Have higher level of employability. Now, what that means basically is you give yourself a lot of options. Okay, that means you are someone that, whether it's a government organization, family business, or MNCs, they want you because you have something that is unique that you can help produce the result in the organization you join. Keep focusing on the employability. All the challenges of organization, you will have an opportunity to say that if you don't like it, you have the options to change, and you are not confined or held hostage by it. All right. Focus on the employability part. So your career, no worries. You can climb no matter where you are.
Okay. Jovita said that she had another event to attend at 4 p.m. Yes, you need to fill out a feedback form. Let us end this session very quickly. Maybe we will take in another 3 questions before we end the session, and then I will let you guys to fill out the feedback form very soon. So I found this, sorry. I saw this one very interesting question submitted by our student. How do you get through with a supervisor that is very hard to deal with or keen on bringing you down?
Meng Chai, do you want to start that, or should I?
Yeah, you can have a version.
Oh, okay. When it comes to supervisors, it is true that a lot of it is personal chemistry, and you also have to remember that one of our chapters we have in our book is that supervisors or bosses are not God, right? So don't come into this type of relationship expecting that bosses are going to solve everything or be able to handle all the issues. They're still subject to the same frustrations and problems that we have. But having said that, managing your relationship with your boss is very important, or supervisor. The key is, one very important thing is communication. Many people are overawed and awestruck by their boss to the point where they can't really even strike a conversation. So that's one issue. The other problem is that your boss may be the type who's very, very busy, and you don't get to actually have that much conversation with that person. In which case you have to utilize every bit of or moment you get where you're with that person to talk about the things that matter. So it is somewhat luck of the draw in terms of what type of boss you get, but I am a believer in the sense that any type of boss, even if you get a boss that is difficult, you can always manage the situation better, and never get into a victimhood mode where you think that all of my life's problems I'm laying at the feet of my boss, because that is very easy to do, and it's also a way to project your own struggles or problems or shortcomings onto another person. So that would be my sort of take on it. Meng Chai, maybe if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, goes back to what I said earlier on about a cup half empty or half full. Okay, if your boss is a difficult person, likely he's going to be a difficult person for a lot of people, for what the personality is. Your job is to try to convert that into a half full scenario. Okay, now half full scenario is this. Okay, what can you learn working with this boss? All right, you go back into the learning mode now that if you have a difficult boss, imagine this difficult boss is a difficult client. Now, in any business, you will come across difficult client. Now, are you able to deal with difficult client? If you don't know, then your boss is a good starting point. All right. What does it take for you to deal with a difficult person? What changes? What skill set do you need? So think about skill set. What's missing? Okay. And then from there, try to acquire the skill set, the mindset, the skill set that is needed to deal with a difficult person. And that will provide you a learning opportunity that you'll probably never get if you don't have a difficult person to deal with. All right, so switch back into the half full thinking, and then from there, use that as a guide.
Okay, thank you. So we come to the second question. What are the concerns of the current company due to the pandemic? Because of the job are very limited right now, so the company might have some new measurement or new concerns on how they evaluate the candidates.
This is the best news of all. All right. Whenever any organization have problem, your job is to provide a solution. Okay. You actually prefer. Well, this is me talking here. I always like to go into organizations that are very challenging. They have problems, because when they have problems, they will appreciate me more if I help them to solve the problems. Okay, so if you have organizations that are having pandemics and all that, and your job is start to figure out, yes, the opportunity may appear less, all right, but it's actually, I would say there's a lot more, but a lot more for people who knows how to solve problems. Now, that differentiate between solving problem and just working. There are people who are looking for work and just want to work. That will not quite help unless you are able to solve problems. So what's your problem? What's the problem that needs to be solved that you can provide the solve? Number one. Number two, make sure that you are not part of the problem. Okay. Now, what that means is basically when you go in there, don't wait for people to tell you what to do, how to do, and all that. Okay. Be a go-getter, be an initiative person and all that. Make yourself a wonderful colleague, a wonderful staff, and someone that people will actually love to work with you. Though you don't contribute to the problem, but instead you become a help to a problem. And that is always welcome in any organization you go.
Okay, we come to the last question. One moment, yeah. Where can we watch back the recorded video? Jiajun, you may drop an email to scdc alliance.tarc.edu.my, which I sent earlier. Let me send it again. Okay, you just need to drop us an email and then we will assist you with that. Okay, we come to the last question. Let me pick one. Okay, one of the students actually asked, I'm not sure which courses this student is studying, but he's not sure whether it has a relevant career that is suitable for him or her. What should I do?
So you're currently engaged in a course of study, and you're not certain whether that is exactly what you want to do. Am I getting that correct, Janice?
Yeah, part of they are not sure of, for example, I am studying psychology, but I'm not sure whether is there any career related to psychology is suitable for me.
I see.
So,
I mean, this is a good question because you're at the early stage of your life, and in many ways, society is putting pressure on you to decide something that is going to determine your career, which is going to be several decades of time, and you're having to make that choice maybe in your early 20s or your late teens. It's actually a lot of pressure when you think about it. That doesn't mean you can't change later on, but it's never easy to do that. What I would say is, it's easy to say follow your passion, but you want to have a nice middle ground between what you can do easily, as in you have a natural interest in that topic, but also that from a more pragmatic angle has some type of opportunities out there that you see there's somewhat of a future in, that you could, because then that means you can do what you like full time. You don't have to necessarily force yourself in a career that you don't want to. So if you have a sense that you're not sure about the career options, I mean, you have to explore it a bit and understand what are the types of things out there that people are doing related to this type of field. So it's about exploration. And if you think that the opportunities are limited, then it's a matter of reflecting and seeing what can you do the maximum that gives you the maximum level of interest that has some return on it. And that's important, but it's hard to give one answer because it depends on many fields. But giving you an example, let's say if you're in STEM fields and you have a level of interest, then it's quite clear that you have perhaps many different market opportunities there for you. But if you're focused on a career that you're not necessarily certain about, you need to do a bit of research and definitely consider that financial angle, but not to the extent that you're just going to go down a rabbit hole of doing something that you have no interest in, and because of pure financial reasons. So there is a meeting point between those two, just to keep it real, without taking undue risks. But yeah, I think that's what I would have to say. Meng Chai, if you have anything to add to that.
I have good news. All right. The good news is this. Unlike maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago, there's this thing called specialization. Okay. I mean, when we study an accountant, we expected to be accountant, and you have a career as an accountant, engineers and all that. When I conduct workshops, I go to bank, I do banking workshops and all that. When the candidates The participant give me their name cards. And when I look at the name cards, I have no way to tell what their educational background is. All right. I can get 20, 30 name cards. I look at it. I really don't know what's their background. They could be economics, they could be communication, they could be anything. Now, where the good news is this, okay, it therefore suggests to you that whatever that your academic qualification is today is actually less relevant unless you are going into deep specialization. Like example, if you're an accountant, you want to be an audit partner, then you have a lot of specialization in that. If you want to be a tax specialist, or you want to be a scientist, or you want to be something that is deep specialization, but a big part of the careers, the jobs out there don't have that kind of specialization, which means that with your qualification, you actually can apply for a lot of jobs, a lot of jobs, okay? And companies are very willing to even engage you, even you don't have that deep specialization, unless they are looking for a really specialist. So, if you go to the bank with your qualification, I'm sure there will be some role that it can fit you. My daughter was accounting graduates, okay? She applied for a bank job. Guess where they put her? They wanted to put her in HR because they thought that she's good in HR. Okay, so you can think about HR and accounting is just two completely different, but they think that she's going to be good in HR. Okay, so it goes to show, don't worry. All right, the good news out there is there are plenty of jobs.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Saqib and Mr. Tan. So here comes, we have come to the end of this webinar session. Okay, I would like to express our appreciation to Mr. Tan and Mr. Saqib for their time and valuable sharing for today. So I believe our students learned a lot from the sharing just now. So if you guys really have any questions that you would really like to get some advice from Mr. Saqib or Mr. Tan, you may drop an email to the email address that I dropped in the chat box, yourcareerdesign@gmail.com. So the speakers will try their best to assist you with your inquiries. Okay. So please complete the feedback form before you leave this webinar session. A gentle reminder, only those who completed the feedback form will be awarded the soft skill points. The feedback form link is just inside the chat box. You guys can click directly. Okay, that's all for today's session. Mr. Saqib and Mr. Tan, thank you so much for your time and effort. So you may leave the session first. So I will wait for the students to complete the feedback form. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Tan and Saqib. So hopefully we can see you in the future again.
Hey,
Thank you all.
Harry.
Appreciate
Thank you, Janice,
problem.
for the opportunity.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
thank
problem.
you. Thank you everybody for attending. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for your attendance. All right. Take
Okay.
care, everybody. Stay safe.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Stay safe too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for all the students to attend today's webinar session. Please don't forget to complete the feedback form. For those who would like to get the video link, please write into SCDC